Hello, everybody. My name is Mars. You can call me MG if you would like, and today I have for you my January reading wrap up. I'm gonna do things a little bit differently than I have in the past. So, what I usually do is go straight from the first book I read in the month all the way to the end, like chronologically. This time, though, we are going to be sorting this by ranking because I do have a new, ranking rating system for books this year. I have decided to step away from the 10 star system that I've been using for the past couple of years because I felt like it wasn't adequately expressing my feelings about the books. Instead, I decided to do a tier ranking of sorts. So at the very top, we have the S ranking and then A, B, C, D, F. And I am going to start at the bottom of the list because I want to end on a high note. So we'll do all of the books that I put in the F tier and then D, C, B, A, and end with the S tier. And I don't know how it's gonna go because, like I said, I've never done it this way before, but I feel like this first month using this ranking system has gone very well, so hopefully that translates into this wrap up. But I did make it so that the rankings stand for something, it's just not the letters. And the F tier stands for finishing this book in this economy. So we are starting off with some books that I did unfortunately DNF. So let's just get right into it. The first book that I DNF'd was Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This was a reread, and I remember really enjoying it the first time I read it several years ago. I think I gave it like a 4 out of 5. But this time around, I just felt like it was taking forever to get to the story. I did read more than 20% of this book, and it just felt like we hadn't gotten to anything. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later when we talk about another book, but I know that Mira Grant, who is also Seanan McGuire, if you didn't know, Mira Grant is a pen name. I know that she can write short books that are very good, which we'll also talk about for a different book later on, because I did a lot of reading from this author this month. Spoiler alert. But her longer works, I fear, just are not for me, and that is okay. I still really enjoy her novellas usually, so this one didn't work out, and I'm glad to have given it another shot because if I did love it again this time around, I would be keeping it on my shelf. But now I know that it is no longer a book for me. I can put it out into the world and someone else can have it and hopefully love this book. Next up is a book I'm so sad to have DNF'd, and that is Scythe and Sparrow by Brynne Weaver. I got 33% into this book. Like, I gave it a very fair shot, and I just did not want to keep reading. I felt like the characters were so cringy, and the character work was just so unrealistic that I did not want to continue on. And it's a really big shame because I loved Butcher and Blackbird, the first book in this series, and then I didn't really enjoy Leather and Lark. I thought Leather and Lark was okay, but it didn't hold a candle to Butcher and Blackbird in my opinion. And then I recently read Tourist Season, which was good for about 85%, and then the ending kind of was not my thing. But Scythe and Sparrow, I just was so not interested in that it kind of makes me question if I want to read any more Brynne Weaver at all, which is kind of a big yikes. I read a summary, some spoilers on Reddit about this book to see if I actually did want to DNF it, and I'm like, yeah, none of that is for me. It's not gonna get better, it's not gonna get closer to my taste, so that is why I cut my losses here, and we'll see if I continue on with the Tourist Season series. It's called the Seasons of Carnage, I think. The second book comes out this summer, so I am unsure if I will give that one a shot or not. Brynne Weaver and I might just be parting ways. And the third and thankfully final book that I DNF'd in January was Twin Tides by Hien Nguyen, which I DNF'd about 13% in. And this was definitely a me problem and not a book problem. I just don't feel like this was the right time for me to read this book. I could tell that it was something that I had the potential to really enjoy, but I just wasn't vibing with at this point in time. I definitely will try again at some point in the future, probably with a physical book, because I did try to read this as an ebook, and I think that formatting also messed with me a little bit because physically is my favorite way to read books. I do enjoy ebooks, I read a lot of those, but sometimes things just work a little bit better in a different format. So, some point in the future, I will pick this book up physically and try again. It was just not the right time for me to read it. The next tier up is the D tier, which stands for disappointing to say the least, and thankfully, I didn't have any books in this tier, so we can just move right along. Then we have the C tier, which stands for could take it or leave it. These are books that are very middle of the road for me. Like, I enjoyed my time reading it, but I also would have been okay having not read it, if that makes sense. So the first book in this tier is Rolling in the Deep by Mira Grant, which is actually the prequel novella to Into the Drowning Deep, and the fact that I read this was part of the reason why I DNF'd Into the Drowning Deep, because I feel like I got everything that I wanted out of Into the Drowning Deep from Rolling in the Deep, and so I was like, why would I continue to read several hundred pages when I'm already satisfied with the story that I got? So, Rolling in the Deep was good, it was creepy, it was nice and short, which we've established I really enjoy from this author. So, I am glad that I read it, but also it wasn't anything super impactful to me. And the other book that I put in this tier is Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. And I did contemplate putting this in the D tier, but I also contemplated putting it in the B tier at another point in time while reading it. So that's why it kind of like leveled out and got put in the C tier. I was really, really enjoying this book for about 75%. And then towards the end, it kind of got disappointing, which is why I was contemplating putting it in the D tier, but it really is just the final conclusion that disappointed me. I loved the horror elements to this, and I loved the writing style. It's very like lyrical and flowery, so if that's not your thing, maybe don't pick this up, but I really enjoy that sort of thing. The vibes, I would say, are like The Lamb by Lucy Rose, which I read last year and had a great time with, but it also kind of feels like the movie Practical Magic, but specifically the parts of the plot that deal with Jimmy Angelov. So, if that's your vibe, you might want to check this out. It is really just the ending that it felt like the build up wasn't done justice with how it all ended up, but maybe that is just my opinion and other people think differently. Next, we have the B tier, which stands for Been a Good Reading Experience. And the first book I have in this tier is Dark Waters by Katherine Arden. This is the third book in the Small Spaces quartet, and I did really like this. I love Katherine Arden's books because they do get creepy, and I feel like middle grade horror can go either the creepy route or like the cute spooky route, and I do prefer the creepy route, and Katherine Arden does that well. I feel like if this was a standalone book, if it wasn't the third book in a series, this could have been an S tier because it was so good. But as the third installment in this series, it kind of fell flat. For starters, our main character of the entire series is Ollie, and yet we don't really see her in this book at all. We follow Brian, which is fine. We can follow a different POV because he is also a like secondary main character in the first two books, but we only see Ollie in like 3 scenes. We only see the main antagonist in 2 scenes, and everything that he does is off page. The big decision that Ollie makes at the end of the book that sets us up for book 4 is made off page. And I just cannot forgive that. I feel like that was such an odd choice that I cannot agree with, but I am still apprehensively looking forward to the fourth book in the series. We're gonna finish it out, and I do want to see how that goes. I still really hope that I enjoy it. The next B tier book we have is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which I was so pleasantly surprised by. I thought this was going to be kind of dense and hard to get into because it was published quite a while ago. Copyright 1939, so almost 100 years ago. Holy cow, that's older than I thought. But this was actually very accessible in writing style. I had no problem getting into it. I just feel like How do I say this in a way that doesn't spoil things? Because I knew the like twist about the killer that this book has. I just didn't know who the killer was, so I didn't know who the twist applied to. And I don't feel like that like ruined my reading experience because I didn't know who the actual killer was, but I did know sort of how things happened. But my theory as to who the killer would be, I had it narrowed down to three possible suspects. And I feel like the one that it was, because I was correct, it was one of the three that I thought it would be. And the one that it was kind of the most obvious of the three and the least creative, I suppose you could say. So I am a little bit disappointed in that. I feel like if it was one of the other two, it would have felt a little bit more not justified, but like I don't know. I feel like I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if it had been a different killer because it felt a little bit too obvious as to the like motivations, maybe I can say. But I am definitely interested in reading more Agatha Christie. I have read one Poirot book, but it was one of the like very late ones in the series and not one of the ones that people say is really good. I've never read a Miss Marple. I don't know which one I would like more. I'm leaning more towards Miss Marple, but let me know your comments on this. If you are more of a Poirot or a Marple reader, if you're into Agatha Christie, I'm definitely intrigued. So I want to know what the consensus is on that. But yeah, very glad that I gave this a shot. Next up is Wrath and Wing by Megan O'Russell, and this is the prequel novella to the Enna of Ilbrea series, and this is actually a book that I own as an ebook, and my owned ebooks is kind of where books go to die. I am very bad about reading books that I buy as ebooks, and I need to be better about that, so this is a good step in the right direction. But I enjoyed this. I thought it was intriguing, but I feel like I didn't get a very good grasp on the world and the lore, which could be because it was an 80-page novella, and I figure once I actually continue on and read the actual novellas in the series, not novellas, novels in the series, I will come to understand things a little bit more, but I did enjoy this. I just felt like I didn't get enough, which is why it is in the B tier. And the last book in the B tier from January is Beautiful Demons by Sarah Cannon, and this one surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. It is very much a 2010s YA paranormal story, which is not my usual vibe, but I was having a good time reading this, and I read this because Sarah Cannon is someone I follow on social media. I really enjoy her content, and the final book in this series, book 12, has a very good chance of being written and published this year. It's something that she's been working on for many years, but being the final book in such a long running series, it's been quite a big undertaking, but it seems like this year might actually be the year. So I'm like, okay, let me go back, reread what I have read from this series, and then continue on and catch up for the release of book 12. So that is what I'm doing from the start of this, and I did really enjoy this, and it left off on quite a cliffhanger, so I'm intrigued to see what happens in book 2. Next, we have the A tier, which stands for Actually Lives in My Head Rent Free, and the first book in this tier is Craft in the Real World by Matthew Salesses, and I randomly stumbled upon this while scrolling through the currently available section on Libby, and I'm very glad that I did, because I felt like especially in the first half of the book, which this book was split into two parts, fiction in the real world and workshop in the real world. The fiction section I felt like gave me a lot to work with and kind of recontextualized some aspects of writing in a way that I thought was very intriguing. And then the workshop section, I did get a little bit less out of because I'm not someone who like runs or attends workshops regularly anymore. I mean, I did when I was in college because I was studying creative writing in college, so workshop was a big part of my degree, but it still gave me some things to think about in terms of like beta readers, and I took some notes on questions I want to ask people when I do give them my writing to check out. So I thought this was very valuable, and I would recommend this to other writers out there who are looking for some craft books to read. Then we have Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire, the fifth book in the Wayward Children series. I've already lost track of the numbers, but this is further proof that I just really love the shorter works by this author. I love this series so much, and we do follow my favorite characters going to my favorite world in this one. We go to visit the Moors again, and it's so good. The only reason why this book did not end up in the S tier is because the beginning was a little bit abrupt. I would have liked to see some things that we ended up just being told by other characters. So that was a little bit of a bummer, and I understand why that choice was made, but I still am not happy with it, and I would have loved to see those things play out on the page instead of one character just telling another character that they happened. But it was still fantastic. I would read a million books set in the Moors, so hopefully we get to revisit it later on down the line with future installments of this series. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed this. And then we have The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was a reread for me and also a buddy read with my good friend Stieg. It's been phenomenal reading these books with him, and I can't wait to continue on. But I was pleasantly surprised by this. I adored the first section of the book where we're following Aragorn and the rest of them. I thought it was so good. And then the shift into Frodo and Sam's story was quite jarring and very bleak. And so I was not. Let this truck go by. I was not having a good time at first when we shifted, but eventually I did get used to the vibe change, and by the end of it, I was so invested in their story again. So it really is just that, like, very abrupt shift that I did not appreciate. I feel like the movie adaptation does a very good job of interweaving the two plot lines together in a way that the book does not, but I still really, really loved this, and I cannot wait to read The Return of the King. So hopefully we get to that soon, but seeing as Stieg is still currently reading The Two Towers at this point in time, I am also content to wait for him. And then finally, we come to the final tier, the S tier, and this stands for sublime, specifically the way that it is said in the Barbie movie, just because I think that is hilarious. And the first book in this tier for January is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I won't talk too much about this book because I did vlog it as this was my first read of the year. I just really loved it and I feel like it kicked things off on a high note. So could not be happier with my first read for 2026, but definitely check out that vlog if you want more in-depth thoughts on this. But for now, I'll just say I had a great time. I'm very much looking forward to reading the rest of this trilogy. And then we have the other book that I put in the S tier for January, and the final book I will be talking about in this video, and that is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. This was such a surprise to me. I, for years now, have been under the impression that historical fiction for me is just fine, and I really only love it when it has like a fantastical element to it, because I do adore historical fantasy. But apparently, I also just really love historical books in general because this blew me away. I was sobbing by the end of it. It really, really got to me. I love the focus on words in this book. If you didn't know, it is about a dictionary, specifically the creation of the first edition of the Oxford English Dictionary, and our main character's father is working on that, and she also, as she grows up, comes to work on the dictionary, but as she does so, she collects these words that, for one reason or another, are not included in this edition of the dictionary, and the character work in this is just so well done. It's so sad when you get to the end, but so beautiful. And I highly recommend this. I actually bought this from a library book sale a year or two ago, and when I bought it, the woman running the little cash register at this book sale was like, "Oh, my book club read this a couple of months ago, and every single one of us absolutely adored it. Like, I really hope you love this." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I put this off for way too long. It was absolutely phenomenal. I cannot sing the praises of this book highly enough. And also, Look at this cover. This is one of the most beautiful covers I have ever seen. So, all around, a very lovely book. So those are all of the books that I read in January. Let me know what you guys think of this tier ranking system and if you like this way of me explaining my books better or if you want me to go back to doing things chronologically. I am open to feedback, so definitely let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I will see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.